Hi, thank you so much for inviting me to share how we have developed our approaches to play and inquiry-based learning here at Carolside. My name is Jo McGregor and I'm Deputy Head Teacher and Lead Nursery to Primary 3 here at Carolside. To give you a bit of context, Carolside is in Clarkson, which is a suburb of Greater Glasgow and within East Renfrewshire Council. We've got 23 classes across 3 streams from primary 1 to primary 5. And then from primary 6 and primary 7, we have 4 streams. So around 700 children in total. Our nursery class has 80 children. So at Carolside, we always start with a why. It's a phrase that we use often as we make changes as part of our improvement journey. We spend time talking about our values and what inspires us as a team, helping us to collectively build our vision for change. The picture in the centre is our fairy garden here at the nursery. And I must say, if you ever get an opportunity to spend time in a nursery, then grab that opportunity. In early learning and childcare, you will see purposeful, independent children following their interests and curiosities and leading their own learning. It's where I learned most about early childhood development. As a team, being invested in professional learning and reading means that research underpins our pedagogical approaches. Deirdre Grogan, Principal Knowledge Exchange Fellow at University of Strathclyde, has been instrumental in our journey, supporting, guiding and challenging us as we create enabling environments for learning, as well as the East Renfrewshire Council, who have provided professional learning opportunities. Some of our favourites are Alistair Bryce-Clegg, who has taught us a lot about setting up continuous provision within our environments. Greg Bottrell has encouraged us to bring joy and a sprinkle of magic to our classrooms. My mum was very proud of being Froebelian trained, and this inspired me to undertake the Froebel in Childhood Practice certificate this year. Conversations that we had really value play and its importance in early childhood development. The painting at the top was gifted to her when she retired to celebrate the forest kindergarten that she created in St Andrew's Nursery. Friedrich Froebel in the 1850s understood the importance of giving autonomy to young children, freedom with guidance, and we're on a journey to embed Froebelian principles into our approaches. One of my current favourite reads is by Mitch Resnick, who is the director of the Lifelong Kindergarten Group based in Massachusetts Institute of Technology. His work has guided our thinking as we develop inquiry-based learning across all stages of our school. So our journey began in 2016 when Michelle Palmer embarked on training with Deirdre Grogan and we embedded play. The following session, the school began exploring child-led learning across all stages, moving away from topics which are repeated each year and welcoming children as co-creators of curriculum. Classes choose contexts for learning which reflect their interests. Alongside this, for the last 4 years, we've been developing Froebelian practices across early years. This session, we continue to consider progressive approaches to curriculum design, responding to a rapidly developing society. We are motivated to modernise children's learning experiences as we consider the importance of 21st century skills. This session, we've chosen to focus on the skills of creativity, growth mindset, and critical thinking. Developing play pedagogy over a number of years, alongside exploring ways that our children lead their learning, is now embedded in our ethos and weaved into the everyday learning experiences of our children. I'm going to share now a short video with you, which was taken by one of our primary 3 practitioners. Sarah took a short video of our room looking very neat and tidy in 2018, and she was very proud of this. And then on the second video, she took another video in the same classroom that she took after moving to primary 1 and then coming back to primary 3. And I think you can see it reflects the impact that has had on her practice. So I'm going to speak for about 10 minutes about our primary one environments, and then I'm going to move on to ways that we've developed play and inquiry-based learning across other stages of the school. And thanks goes to all of the classroom practitioners. I get the chance to speak about it today, but it's all of their wonderful work that I'm sharing. And thanks to our families as well, who've given permission for us to share images of their children. Deirdre Grogan prompted us to reflect upon what does our environment tell us about how we support and value play, and hopefully over these next few slides you'll see the different ways that we do. If you're at the start of your journey with play pedagogy, a great place to start is the creative area. This is Paula, one of our practitioners, her creative area. She enjoys showing progression, and the skills are visible on the wall above the children's work. They have a proud wall in the classroom with a peg for each child. And then as they visit a skill each week, the child then develops a little book that they can take home at the end of the exploration of that visual element. If we are tackling an artist study, for example, some children were looking at Van Gogh and the Starry Night, we want to make sure in the creative area there are self-selection resources available for the children. They're well organised and they can self-select different sizes of paper and all of the materials and resources that they need. We have been exploring the Frobelian occupations and exploring clay and sewing and weaving within our environments. Another way to kind of really provoke thinking and discussion in this area is creating mood boards. So that starting on the left, that is a little mood board exploring pattern, looking at Mendy and Rangoli. And then on the right is a little mood board for printing. And then bottom left is some portraits, looking at portraiture. And it's lovely to have a mirror in there so the children can see their faces too. And then on the right-hand side, there was a little provocation in primary one where the children were using mirrors, looking at their faces, and then creating a piece of transient art for them. And they enjoy doing that. They can always capture the image on an iPad. Displaying boards in the creative area showing attachment techniques and paper folding techniques has really nudged the learning forward and enhanced skill development at the creative area. Paper is a wonderful resource for children to use in so many different ways. You may already be aware of these pamphlets on the Frobel Trust website. They've been really useful to us to help guide us and help us to understand the principles behind using woodwork, clay, or sewing with the children. They act as a really useful guide. Block play areas are very popular in our primary one classroom environments. Blocks are organised on shelves with labels for the children to help them when they're returning items to where they belong. Block play allows children to think on their feet in order to solve problems. They see patterns, they learn about structure, they learn about balance. In the image on the left here, the children were creating beds on an aeroplane. So they had an aeroplane, then they decided it was an overnight flight, so they needed to make some beds. And in the middle, there is a little girl there noticing symmetry within her design. That was part of Maths Week Scotland. We were guided by the 7 stages of block play brochure that was created by Katrina Gill and is available on the Frobel Trust website. Adding in loose parts, you can really see the children beginning to use symbolic play. The children here were learning all about castles, and the teacher just kind of gently threw in some books and resources to help guide their thinking. And the models become vast. They're built upon across the day, and lots of children can kind of add in to these. You can then be there to help guide the conversation. If you're invited into the play, you might like to ask them some meaningful questions and some open-ended questions. So setting up continuous provision is extremely important. What is available in the room for the children to continue their learning in the absence of an adult? So we have really been guided by Alistair Bryce-Clegg on this, and you'll see in the images here that in our classrooms we have resources available to the children that are out on shelves. So anything that's out on a shelf is available for the children to use. They can take it, they can use it in their play or in their targets. So all of these shelves are open to the children. Things are well organised. This is a really busy shelf, the one in the middle, and we wouldn't start like that in the beginning of primary one. We'd maybe start with a lot less things on it and then add to it as the children were used to using the resources. Then we've been guided by the work of Anna Efgrave, as we think about observing the children, and that's such an important part of your practice and something that we ensure to build in time. Sometimes it can be easy to perhaps sit at the teacher table, but this time to go out in the beginning stages of primary one, play with the children, model how to use the resources. These interactions are so important, but can be something that is hard to get right. We try always not to ask questions, what are you making, but more ones that probe children's thinking. Julie Fisher does some really interesting information about that in her book, Interacting or Interfering. So in the construction area, in this area, we have real life materials. There are tape measures, meter sticks, there are spirit levels. We're really looking to promote literacy and numeracy within the area also. So there are clipboards available. We have little grab and go kits with pencils and rulers and things available for the children in different areas of the classroom. We encourage them to draw maps and to draw labels of what they've been making. And again, you'll see the 7 stages of block play available at the back of the little display. Also, there are photographs of landmarks to make it really real and meaningful for the children. So maybe it might be landmarks that they've talked about or been on holiday and visited. Really, we want to value children's learning. So you'll see photographs around the display, which is a great starting point for children to see another child's work. And then they think, oh, I could do that. Or that was a great idea. Let's build upon that. And we have blank storyboards. The little picture to the left-hand side, we are encouraging the children to tell the story behind the model or create a cartoon featuring their person or their model if they have a story about the model that they have made. So STEAM provocations and challenges, they are around the room. We have a workbench, which we are guided by Pete Muirhouse. There's lots of information available about setting up if you're interested in using woodwork within the classroom. And then also use people around you, parents. Mr. Kerr, our wonderful janitor, comes in and does work with the children, supporting them how to use tools safely. And I think it's really nice to involve other people as well. And then in science, whatever the children are learning that week in science, it is perhaps introduced as a little bit of bookend learning, and then it's pushed out into the continuous provision for that week. Then some more ideas of some STEM challenges there that the children are able to access and to use independently. So here's a lovely image. I love this one of the role play area. So the role play area, we want it to be open-ended. We want it to be flexible. We want the children to take the resources that are there and use them in a way that suits them and suits their play. So on this occasion, they decided to make a pizza parlor. And so the teacher, it was Paula, she decided to challenge their thinking. And they were saying they wanted uniforms. She said, great, go and make some. So off they went and made their tabards and made their hats. And then they brought their loose parts in for the symbolic play of their lovely pizza toppings and things. And then they used the telephone to create orders as well, which really added to the play. So it was a lovely example of the role play. And then other areas in the classroom that you can use, the small world area, the sand area can be established. And then you can add in books, you can add in things to enhance the learning or change it. So there is a balance of learning that goes on in our environments. And the first one to explore is teacher-led learning. So this is the learning that happens led by the teacher, usually at the table. Sometimes we can take the teacher-led learning out into the room, but we often have these horseshoe tables which we bring the children to, and they work daily with their teacher on literacy or numeracy. We can have lovely examples here. The little bottom left-hand picture shows 3 children working at different stages. So one child is working and ordering numbers to 10, one to 20, and one working within numbers to 100. So the teacher has the baskets available with the resources. She can really be flexible, and she can extend the children's thinking, or she can go back and go over something again and really add that level of challenge. Another little example of flexible grouping and high ceiling tasks. You could have your CVC words or CVCC, consonant digraphs. The children could explore at their level, and then you could just nudge the learning forward and just see how they got on at the next level. So using the teacher table to stick things onto, to use chalk pens in order to create activities to work with the children. And then we have teacher-initiated targets. So these are targets that are set for the children, and in the initial stages of primary one, there's a literacy and a numeracy target that they complete across the day, as well as that time for teacher-led activities and time for them to explore their own learning. So the teacher-initiated targets really are for the child to show what they have been learning, to apply the skills that they've been learning at the teacher table without the teacher there. So can they apply the learning that they have been working with the teacher? So some examples of some literacy and numeracy targets. The top left-hand photograph shows something that when I reflect upon as a primary one teacher, I had very static groups, which the children didn't move between the groups, whereas we're much more flexible with our groupings. The children don't really know what group they are in. It changes. So one day they could be a star, one day they could be a moon, one day they could be a sun. And the teacher's able to just move their names around the board. The child doesn't have to remember their targets because their name is right there above their target for that day. So a really nice way of flexible grouping the children. I love this example of addition and counting machine and our subtraction smash. So it's very physical. The children have their numbers in the top, and they can bash with a little hammer and take away the numbers and see what's left in the box, or vice versa. They can add the two numbers in together, and they collect together in the bottom, allowing the children to add the concrete materials. So a nice way of demonstrating that. And again, here's a couple of examples of just teacher-initiated learning out in the room. So the children are involved in games, playing lots of games, using physical movement, acting out calculations with each other. A phrase that the staff here have come up with and they talk lots about is bookends in the learning. So these short teaching inputs as a whole class, and then the follow-up activity, rather than it being completed together, goes into the room as part of the continuous provision, and the children will access that at some point across the week. And the way we do that is, sorry, just let me go back to that one. The way we do that is we introduced high five challenges. And these challenges are ways that you can really encourage children to access different areas of the classroom. Children will choose to play in areas that they're comfortable playing in, and sometimes they can just need a little nudge to try different things. So high five challenges could be around different areas of the room, or it could be to do with subjects, things that you've been working on, and they get pushed out into the room. So there's some nice examples of our challenges there. This one I do love. The children were practicing their reading, and a way of getting them to go off and practice their reading independently is they take the reading teddies from the reading box, and they go and read a story, cuddle up in a story corner and read a story to their teddy bear, which is just lovely. And then here are some examples of child-led learning, which we value because the children are able to be flexible and follow their own interests, and things that they create amaze us and are wonderful. And we value those as well. So the little boy on the right had created a salt course for his hamster. So the hamster was going to go in there and take part in lots of activities. And he was so proud of that. And he's wearing his little reporter badge around his neck because he's going to present that to the class. So if the teacher notices some children doing something really interesting or things that they want to share, there's time for them to do that at the end, before break or before lunch, to share the work of the children. So I'm now going to move on to talking about our primary 2 environments, which you'll see they look similar, but they're also different. There are the ways that they look the same, and it's quite a smooth transition, but there's ways that they look a little bit different. So again, we're still valuing the block play. You can really see the developments here, where the children are really creating really in-depth models. And the one on the left here, I just love the added material to it. There was a story. One group of children took it in one direction, and then another group of children took it in a completely different direction. And the teacher in this classroom says, as long as there's space for the class to meet on the floor, they can have as much space as they need. And we don't tidy away at break time. We tend to have a tidy up later on in the morning or in the afternoon, but the children are allowed to really spend a lot of time creating these wonderfully intricate models that all have plots and storylines and characters and are really valued. It's a nice picture of a nice little area where the children can go and read and enjoy stories. And I've got a few little examples there of some of the targets within primary 2. So there's still that teacher table. There's still tables for the children to work in. Actually, our classroom environments, the primary 2 environments, aren't huge. There is a seat for most children, but it doesn't belong to that child. The children can access the learning wherever they want. It's not that it's their seat. When they're working at the teacher table or they're working at a target, they just go and find a space to work, and they're very good at sharing that space with their peers. Another lovely examples here, where we allow space and time to build models across the day. And these pictures, you can just see how proud the children are of their models, which is lovely to see. And again, the targets are active, they're creative. There is jotter work, there's lots of jotter work, but there's also lots of opportunities for the children to demonstrate their skills using concrete materials, really making objects, which is valued. And again, a love for outdoors, connecting to and seeing beauty within nature is valued within our classrooms. So I'm going to move on to primary 3. Now, primary 3, as part of our bump up experience at the end of primary 2, the children went and spent time with their classroom teachers, and they had an opportunity to design their own classroom. And they loved this opportunity. And you can see one practitioner has chosen to put this out on the wall outside, and the children love saying, oh, I chose where the library corner was going, or that's where I wanted the creative area to go. So they're very proud that when they started in primary 3, that they could see some of their ideas into place. And this was some of the kind of reading that really underpinned our thoughts around that, about really having the children on board, being involved and being valued in setting up their classroom environment, really as kind of co-constructors. So there's some lovely quotes here to inspire us. And then again, this is back to the kind of Mitch Resnick lifelong kindergarten that we were so inspired by, about developing that kind of inquiry-based classroom within primary 3. And it was these 4 Ps. He talks about these 4 Ps of peers, projects, passions, and play. And across the day, across the week, we ensure that we have time that the children have to follow their own interests and their own passions through their own little projects. So you can see the layout of the classroom. So at the front of the classroom, there is that teacher table, again, where the teacher can work with a group of children. The children in primary 3 spend longer on their targets. They're not so quick and so short. They're spending quite a lot of time at the teacher-initiated, completing their teacher-initiated targets. And you can see from the classroom, there is space, even though there are desks for everybody within the class. If they're kind of on the right-hand side of the classroom, if you're looking at the image, the desks and the target area is that kind of more quiet working area. And then to the left, there's that kind of noisier place. So we've got the STEM area, we've got the block play area, we've got the creative area right up at the back of the classroom. So there's space for the children to play. And then actually one feature of this classroom is having the library in the centre of the room, which works beautifully. Furniture can be used to section off areas, but then also you can kind of get those shoe shelves where you can see through. So from the teacher table, the teacher's able to still have a really good view of the whole of the room. And then again, weekly challenges are used in order to really challenge and extend the children's learning. Children's questions are valued in an inquiry-based classroom. In some of the examples, some of the teachers decide to type up the children's research questions and pop them into a research area. And then they're there alongside a Chromebook or some books which are accessible to the children. In some other classrooms, we've got wonder walls, or there's a large floor book where the children write down their questions, or we have different kind of inquiry walls, which can be used to gather the wonders and the questions that children have. We did have class sets of Chromebooks, which we shared amongst stages, but some stages have been experimenting on dividing these up and sharing them so that classes have just a few Chromebooks, but they're there for the children and are accessible across the week, allowing them to research and answer their questions. And then the picture on the bottom right-hand side, this is again a lovely example of a model museum where the children, they want to show off their models. And again, we're valuing the children's work with photographs and displays of their work. And again, we've got some nice targets and weekly challenges here. So you can see that there's opportunities for the children to weave. Again, you'll see the paper skill development examples are there to extend the children's thinking. The little picture in the top middle is two boys who were extremely pleased with their sewing. So there was a little sewing provocation area set up for them to work with, which was lovely. And opportunities, all areas are used. So, you know, there might be an area at the back of the class. Children do love to stand. And so there's a little transient art area set up at the back of the class for the children to be able to explore and make pictures. And here's some lovely examples of block play. Again, we're using the Kapla, which is a wonderful material to be able to celebrate and to use. So there's some lovely gravity-defying models there. And then when we're using our artist studies, the progression into primary 3, here's a class that been looking at Moni, and the children are able to select the paper that they would like to work with, the media that they would like to use, and display their learning in a million different ways rather than one thing, or using a template. The children can explore different ways of working, which is lovely to see. And here we have some of our primary 4 classroom environments. So this is a primary 4 class who this year have moved to more of an inquiry-based approach. So within the classroom, there is a science area where the children can access the learning that's going on in science across the week. And again, they've got their target area, and again, they've got their teacher table. So it's taking the lessons from play pedagogy and seeing how can this work in the middle and upper stages in school. So it's been very successful in primary 4 and beyond as well. And some of the comments from the teacher are really interesting, where they have noticed the engagement of the children coming in and being excited about their learning, which is lovely to see. And some really nice feedback from the children as well, as they've loved exploring their new environments. I talked at the start about our creative learning lab, and just quickly to show you, we have our Froebelian classroom where the primary 1 to 3 children explore during non-class contact time working with Paula. And then the primary 4 to 7 children are exploring creativity in our creative learning lab, which is a really inspiring place to be, and where the children can wonder, explore, plan, create, test, celebrate, and then redesign their passions and their projects. So it's a really lovely space for the children to be and to create. And here's some examples of some being busying away, creating some beautiful paper designs and paper costumes for their mannequin at the back. And they're challenged with lots of prompts around about them to look at different things like hemlines and necklines and designs within their creations, which is lovely.